Welcome to another explainer, everyone. Let's just jump right into it. When we think about the Indian economy, our minds usually go straight to those vast green paddy fields, or maybe the massive smoking chimneys of heavy industry. But today, we're going to look at the invisible engine that's actually powering India's modern economy. We are talking about the service sector. It's this invisible force that keeps our daily lives running smoothly and literally connects our local neighborhoods to the global stage. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll quickly cover what service activities actually are, break down the 8 main categories, look at the tech and BPO boom, and then dive into the employment reality on the ground. Finally, we'll unpack the big FDI retail debate and look at a massive healthcare worker shortage.
All right, part 1. What actually are service activities?
Let's start by just looking around our own neighborhoods, at the faces we see every single day. Think about Dr. Sarojini doing her rounds at the local clinic, or Sundarya selling groceries from her front room. Then you've got Ramesh, the accountant verifying payments at his desk, and Sampath driving his minivan to get folks to the market. At first glance, their days look completely different, right? But what actually connects all their work? Well, the answer is that they are all engaged in service activities. Unlike a farmer who's harvesting physical paddy or a factory worker weaving tangible cloth, these folks are producing something intangible. You can't put Dr. Sarojini's medical advice in a box, and you definitely can't wear the math Ramesh does. But their specialized skills and expertise, we absolutely rely on them for our daily lives. They earn their living by providing a service that people and businesses desperately need.
And here's the really crucial thing. Services do not exist in a vacuum. They are literally the backbone of agriculture and industry. Think about it. What happens to a huge harvest of fresh vegetables if there are no truck drivers to move them? Or how do you even build a factory without the railways bringing in the cement? You need traders and retail sellers to actually get goods to the people who buy them. Without services, farming and manufacturing would pretty much grind to a halt.
Moving on to part 2, the 8 service categories. With millions of people doing these intangible jobs across the country, we usually organize them into these 8 major buckets to make sense of it all. It covers a huge range. We've got education, health and medical services, trade, public administration, which is everyone from local police to village officers. Then there's defense, financial activities like banks, personal services, think laundry, domestic workers, and hair salons. And finally, IT and entertainment. Okay, part 3. The tech and BPO boom. So zoom out with me for a second and look at how technology has completely transformed this space. Modern telecommunications have totally erased borders. Since the early 90s, India has seen this massive explosion in business process outsourcing, or BPOs. Because of this, someone sitting in a call center right here in India can instantly help a customer over in London with their bank deposit details or hospital records. This brings us to a huge concept. Outsourcing. Companies basically figured out, hey, we don't need to do everything in-house. So instead of a manufacturing firm hiring its own full-time security guards or accountants, they hire an outside agency. Why? Honestly, it's largely to cut costs. It lets them avoid paying the health, pension, and provident fund benefits that permanent in-house workers usually require. And this whole technological shift has completely snowballed. It's led to the creation of these massive software technology parks all over the country, places like Noida, Pune, Hyderabad, and Bangalore. These hubs are driving massive global software projects, bringing in huge foreign investment and employing thousands of highly skilled engineers. Which brings us to part 4, the employment reality. It's super easy to get caught up in big economic trends, but what is life actually like for the real people on the ground? Well, we see a pretty stark divide. On one side, you have a highly paid IT worker. Financially, they're doing great. They can support their families and buy whatever they want. But they're dealing with extreme stress, crazy deadlines, night shifts, and a really isolating mechanical lifestyle. On the flip side, look at an auto rickshaw driver. His reality is brutal daily uncertainty. He pays daily rent for his vehicle, faces rising competition, sleeps by the road, and might make 250 rupees one day and barely 100 the next. Same exact sector, but completely different worlds. And the numbers brilliantly back this up. If we look at data from 1991 to 2010, private sector jobs just exploded. In finance and trade alone, private jobs jumped from 2.5 lakh to a staggering 15.5 lakh. Meanwhile, government jobs in areas like transport and communications actually shrank from over 30 lakh down to about 25 lakh. So the private sector is definitely generating the bulk of the new jobs. But as we just saw with the IT worker and the auto driver, the quality and security of those jobs are all over the map.
Next up, part 5,
The FDI retail debate.
Rapid growth like this naturally sparks some pretty intense national debates, like the 2012 policy allowing foreign direct investment, or FDI, in retail. This is a really complex issue, and both sides make compelling points. Critics are super worried about traditional job losses. They argue that massive foreign supermarkets will eventually misuse their power, push out small local retailers, and force farmers to sell at unfairly low prices, basically creating a monopoly. But the supporters? They look at the fact that right now, 20 to 40% of our agricultural goods just rot away because of bad storage. They argue that multinational corporations will build the state-of-the-art storage we desperately need, and might even rescue farmers from exploitative local moneylenders by offering better direct contracts. It's a massive, ongoing debate about the future of our trade services. Finally, Part 6, the healthcare worker shortage. Despite the whole BPO boom and the debates over foreign money, India is still facing some terrifying shortages where it matters most: human well-being. A recent report showed an acute shortage of over 64 lakh. That's more than 6 million skilled healthcare workers across the country. We are missing massive numbers of medical technologists, nurses, rehabilitation workers, dental assistants, you name it. Uttar Pradesh alone is short about 10 lakh allied health professionals. It leaves us with an incredibly uneven distribution of care. To put that into perspective, just look at the doctor-to-population ratio. For every 1,000 people in India, we have just 0.5 doctors. Compare that to 5.4 in the UK or 5.5 in the US. Even countries like China and Sri Lanka are way ahead of us. If we don't have the people to actually provide the service of healthcare, the human engine of our economy is running at a huge disadvantage. So I'm going to leave you with this massive challenge to chew on. The service sector is undeniably the modern engine of India. But as millions of people transition away from agriculture and into this sector, how do we balance the need to create decent, secure jobs with the urgent, vital need to build out our hospitals and infrastructure? Talk about it with your classmates, discuss it with your teachers. How should India build its service-powered future? Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep learning.